Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, I like to take about a half hour to answer questions from you about your job search. Because to me, job hunting doesn't have to be as hard, difficult, painful, or take as long as it does. It's just the skills needed to find a job are different from those needed to do a job. And having worked in recruiting for as long as I have, I'm not in that field anymore. I now provide job search coaching globally. It's no BS job search coaching and career advice globally. So I can make the process of finding a new job much easier for people because I see how many of you are suffering. It is tough out there. And it leads to the first point I want to make. And LinkedIn put this out just a little while ago, and that is lots of new job openings as of December of last year. That's exactly what I was seeing in my feed too. Firms started hiring beginning with the Thanksgiving period at the end of November through the end of the year. Very consistent listings were showing up in my feed. And what's fascinating, frankly, is that so many firms started to open up again. And then, of course, with the new year, if you've been in your feed for any length of time and you have a decent number of followers or connections, you're seeing layoffs still happening, more open to work posts that had stopped toward the end of last year, and now we're back. So we're in this revolving cycle of hiring and letting go. And so much of the hiring in the US, at least, has occurred in a couple of sectors. Healthcare, and LinkedIn put out something about what they saw in the fourth quarter of last year, which was a lot of healthcare positions. IT started to rebound in December, but being practical, IT lost over 100,000 workers over the last 12 months, and it rebounded a whopping 5,000. Most of the hiring that's taken place in the US has been for positions in government adjacent jobs like social services, healthcare, leisure, and hospitality. Not a lot of LinkedIn user jobs there, but LinkedIn is saying that in December there was hiring going on. I'm seeing it in January as well, as again, jobs are showing up in my feed and open to work posts are showing up in my feed. Stories of layoffs are showing in my feed. Is that what you're seeing too? If you are, tell me what you're seeing, whether you agree with me or not. I'm happy to hear differences of opinions. But in addition, I'm here to answer questions from people. I do this show Tuesdays at noon Eastern with rare exceptions where I field questions from people live. And if for some reason you can't make it live, what you can do is put your question, mark that you'll attend, send your question to me through LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the big game hunter. And I'll answer your question during the show. And if you're here, don't hesitate to say hi to me and also put your questions into chat so I can answer them. And I've received quite a few in advance of the show, so I'm not sure how large the audience is on YouTube, X, or on LinkedIn, but no matter, I'm here to serve. And the first question that someone sent to me is it okay to email a prospective supervisor who happens to be part of the interview panel to find out how I did at the interview? Yes. And what I would say to you is if you're doing this 5 minutes after the interview ended, don't. If we're talking about a day or two later, yes, by all means, be reasonable. They've got a job to do, and you may hear their opinions. They may not take your call, but there's nothing wrong in expressing your interest. and just simply emailing and saying, just want to let you know how interested I am in the role. And I'm curious what you and the panel thought of my qualifications and whether you saw that I was qualified to do this job or not. I'd be disappointed if I'm not. Any feedback that you could give me would be helpful to me, but I just want to let you know of my interest and was curious as to what your thoughts were and what the panel's thoughts were. By all means, feel free to do that because, again, what you're doing is expressing your interest in the role, and that's a good thing. Okay? I've got another question from someone. I've done my master's in data science in the UK, and I have experience or 3 years of experience in India. What is something that would be helpful for me to crack the interview and get the job? This may not be the thing that you want to hear, but it's one of the most important things that you can hear. Let's start off with the legal right to work in whatever country you're in. Because without that legal right, it's hard to be hired. So starting off with, I don't know if you're in the India, in the US, in the UK, I don't know where you are, but let's assume that you have the legal right to work in India. You didn't have it in the UK. You certainly don't have it in the US. And you need to start off with the legal right to work in the country that you want to be working in. From there, I can't go into detail with you about the individual questions that you might be asked. To a real degree, you can deduce a lot of those from the job description and thus be prepared to answer questions that would reflect upon your experience with that firm is looking for. So that if you were them trying to evaluate you for a role like this, what might they ask you in order to figure that out? Always think in those terms and look at the job description. Get some advice from other people and pose that question. If you were them trying to fill this position on their staff, what might they want to ask me in order to figure out if I'm qualified? Those two together, the legal right to work in the country and figuring out what they might ask you, will serve you very well. Also, prepare at least 3 stories that would connect the dots between what you've done and what they're looking for. And I'll also mention one thing you can do is I've got a video course called The Ultimate Job Interview Framework. If that's all you want, it's available at thebiggamehunter.us. You can rent it for a few days or buy it. It will help you with interviewing and will get you prepared for interviewing. I also have it at JobSearch.Community. There's my finger. At JobSearch.Community with a whole bunch of other video courses, books, and guides. You can join at any tier level and have access to the course. I've been encouraging people to join as an Insider Plus member because Insider Plus members, in addition to getting all those video courses, books, and guides, and the ability to ask me questions for the site, get 2 calls or Zoom calls with me per month for more. So I can coach, I can answer questions, I can do what you need twice a month, all for only $79 per month. Sign up at the site. I've got some free stuff there as well. So spend a little time with the free stuff and then join me at whatever tier makes sense. So at $79 a month, it's Insider Plus. At $49 a month, it's an Insider membership where you get all the video courses, books, and guides, and can also ask me questions through the site. I already told you about Insider Plus. And then Insider Premium is for one-on-one or group coaching to help you land your next job. And we spend a lot more time together where I work to help you land that job. So again, go to JobSearch.Community where you can sign up for any of those tiers. Okay? Now, Alexandra has a question for me. I've learned on LinkedIn that a number of times the job posted are not real jobs. Instead, I have learned that some organizations are just collecting CVs. Can I comment on that? Anything is possible. Now, let's pause for a second and say, why would they collect the CV? I think it's because they anticipate something opening up fairly soon. They may be doing it because, for immigration purposes, they may have someone that they want to hire on a visa, but they have to demonstrate that they tried to hire someone who was a U.S. citizen or had the legal right to work in the U.S. already. And that's a little bit of a game that's played. But if you fixate on that, I think you're making a mistake. The real thing with LinkedIn is, yes, there are jobs posted that may not be real. But I'm just going to concede that. But most of what's posted is real because it costs them money to post. When you have a membership on LinkedIn, when you have a LinkedIn recruiter account, you're receiving a certain number of slots to post jobs. You also have the ability to search the entire database and email people. But the job postings, they may want to attract some people that fit something now, fit something later, something that they're anticipating but aren't ready to act on, but they want to accumulate the resumes. And of course, like I said, it could be a number of organizations or some organization that foolishly tries to play this game with the visas where they have to demonstrate we looked at a number of resumes from people who were in the U.S. And they weren't qualified, and instead we chose to hire this person with a visa. Now, this U.S. government, and I have to say, like the last couple, are not real fond of having firms hire people who do not have the legal right to work in the U.S. So, I don't. As I said, I don't think that's a common occurrence. I think most of the time there's just a lot more people applying than there are job openings, and they can't talk to everyone. So if you get to them as number 150, number 200, number 100, they've already gone through 100 resumes, pulled out a number that they're already seeing as being suitable, and they're focusing on those. So, Alexandra, yes, it happens. It doesn't happen as often as people think it might happen. And I hope you found this helpful. If you've got more questions, don't hesitate to ask, okay? And I've got more that have been sent to me in advance. I'm just going to mention, if you've got a question for me, put your question into chat so I can answer it live, okay? And again, JobSearch.Community. Sorry, my finger's invisible there. Let me try again. JobSearch.Community. Yeah, this free stuff on the homepage to help you. A couple of videos. One of my books is there. It's an organizer that will help you organize your job search, tracking the positions you've applied to, tracking your financials, so that in this way you can keep yourself organized. One of my favorites is diagnosing your job search problems. It's a PDF that will help you figure out where it's breaking down for you. Now, another question I received in advance of the show is, what are the benefits, of using an ATS in the hiring process? Well, it helps with tracking all those resumes because firms have government reporting requirements. Once they receive a resume, you're in their system, they can find you again for subsequent positions. Now, the truth is, they don't always go back into the applicant tracking system to find people. So what it's often used is exactly what the name suggests. It's tracking an applicant through the hiring process. It also filters resumes. A person who's not qualified, many ATSs will filter someone out so it doesn't go through to a person. Now, I always encourage people, or let me restate that. These days, I'm encouraging people to make their resume and the job description fit using AI. And you can do that pretty readily. I've got videos on that at JobSearch.TV or at thebiggamehunter.us that will help you with that. It's organized by categories. So on YouTube, it's as a playlist. I think it's ChatGPT AI. On thebiggamehunter.us, it's as a category. No matter, start using AI to help you match your resume with job descriptions, and you're going to wind up getting more interviews. So the big benefit from an employer's perspective is it helps them track people throughout the process, because once it gets past the HR person, it's being submitted to a hiring manager. How long does it take that manager to respond? What do they tell them? Are they interested? Do they want to schedule? When is it? Everything can be communicated through the system, and that makes it easier for them, including generating the offer letter and onboarding you into their HRIS system to help them bring you on board. So I'll simply say there's a benefit for an employer. For a job hunter, a lot less so. For a job hunter, where you can, try and get to a real person who may direct you to the system, but where you can be introduced by someone who works for the firm or who knows the hiring manager, who can, shall we say, influence them into talking to you. That serves you very well. It's social proof of you being qualified. Use it. It will benefit you. So I'll just simply say, try it. Try working your way around the systems so that this way you're not stuck. Okay? What does it mean if a recruiter says to you, you are not a good fit for the position? You've been rejected. Your background doesn't fit the job. You're not qualified. It's a more gentle way of saying it, but they don't see you as being suitable for the role. You're not qualified in their estimation. It also says that if you are qualified, that you didn't present it in a way that they got you, and that they got you were qualified. And that's on you, because recruiters, whether they're corporate or agency recruiters, all they care about is filling a job. Really, they want to get someone in front of their client, whether that's a third-party recruiter getting in front of a corporate client, or you're a corporate recruiter trying to get someone's resume in front of an internal client. All they care about is looking like they're trying to fill the job and actually filling it. So the long and the short of it is, what it means is you didn't present yourself well enough for them to see that you were qualified for the job. Okay? We've got more, and I'm just going to remind you, if you've got a question for me, put your question about job search into chat so I can answer it live. Okay? Now, here we go. What's the best approach to responding to unsolicited job inquiries? Courtesy. So I always start with that. Now, I have no idea whether you got a text, an email through LinkedIn, an email, what. So I always encourage people respond. And you can simply say, I'm not interested in this role. This is what I would be interested in. Message me if you have something along these lines. That tells them exactly what you're looking for, right? And they may spam you in the future regardless, because their system may not be well enough, doesn't do good enough filtering for them to sort your message. But A good recruiter, as I was, would take this information, put it into my applicant tracking system, because I had my own at that point, and allow me to know what it was you were looking for so I could circle back to you when I had something that made sense for someone with your qualifications. So, the best approach to respond to an unsolicited inquiry is to let them know what you would be interested in. And if you're not interested at all, I'm going to politely say, message them regardless, because the person who gets ahead isn't always the smartest. They don't always work the hardest, although those are great qualities to have. People get ahead by being alert to opportunity. Sometimes they're internal to an organization. Most of the time, they're external. So by just staying alert to what's open for someone like you, you're hearing about things that make sense. And that serves you and your career well. It also is polite. You don't want to come across as one of those jerks, right? You don't want to develop that kind of a reputation with anyone, professionally or personally. Okay? So, yeah, so what I would say is just respond courteously and say, either this isn't my time to do it. I'm working on something interesting. I might be interesting. I might be interested in something 6 months from now when this project gets along further. But for now, it doesn't make sense for me. This is what I would be looking for at that time, and go from there. Okay. Let's see now. Let me just copy this into chat. Yeah. What is the significance of someone from another country visiting your LinkedIn profile? Ooh, well, it may mean nothing. It may mean they're curious about what you do. They did a search for certain types of backgrounds to either maybe help them with writing their own LinkedIn profile, and your background was similar to theirs, so they wanted to copy the way you presented it or copy your profile or elements of your profile because it was similar to what they did. It could mean that they're a recruiter from a foreign country who's going to contact you about a position. If you've got a paid LinkedIn account, one of the things you might consider doing is messaging them back and saying, LinkedIn told me you looked at my profile. Was there something in particular you were looking for in my profile? Just ask them. I think that serves you very well. And they may say, oh, nothing. I stumbled into you by mistake, whatever it is. But you're asking them directly what it is that they were looking for. And that's going to help you solve this problem on your own. Okay. How can I get a job after a big career gap? It's hard if all you're going to do is apply for jobs. Applying for jobs, you don't have what I used to call a pristine background. You've got a big gap. Now, if you've taken courses to get yourself back up to speed in your area of expertise, get that into your resume. If you've gotten certifications, get that into your resume. Acknowledge it in your cover email or in the note that you submit with the application on LinkedIn or elsewhere. But just simply say, uh, you know, you've probably noticed I've been out of the labor market for the last 7 years. Was raising our son, daughter, hamster, taking care of my ill parent, whatever it is, and I'm now able to return to work. Um, I've taken courses, I've done this to try and get my expertise back to where it was. I'm pretty much there as far as I can tell, and I think I can do a quality job for you. So you've got to communicate that to them uh, with your resume. And the ideal thing is an introduction by someone who knows the hiring manager, who knows you, who can attest to what your qualities are. You may have spoken to them, and thus they can attest to your qualifications, that you are now up to speed, that you're willing to be flexible from what you previously earned, and thus they can get you for a bargain, whatever that means these days. I'm going to take two more questions and break at this point. I'm just going to remind you, JobSearch.Community. Go there. There's a ton there to help you on the homepage. Plus, what you're able to do is become a member in one form or another, get access to much more from me. Okay? Oh, yes, I remember this question when it came in. Does being fired hurt your chances of getting another job? Of course it does. Of course it does. Now, and you know this because you're asking the question. Did you expect I was going to say, oh, no, no problem whatsoever? You got fired for incompetence. You got fired for bad behavior. No problem at all. Of course, there's a problem. So, as I did on a previous show, where someone wrote that they told an inappropriate joke and was fired from that. When the subject came up on the application, because that's often where it starts, they were able to say, look, I made a terrible mistake. And I'll just simply say, I've learned my lesson from making this mistake. What kind of mistake did you make? I said something that was inappropriate. It wasn't racist or sexist or anything along those lines, but it was grounds for termination. I have learned my lesson. You will never have to worry about this from me again. What sort of mistake was it? And you look uncomfortable, and you slow down your speech and soften your speech so that they understand you're in your feelings and you're speaking from an emotional state. And that will help you communicate that you've learned your lesson and you're repentant about this mistake. The long and the short of it is, I said something inappropriate to someone. It was grounds for termination. I understand. And I'll just simply say, I will never do that sort of thing again. I feel terrible about it. And I hope you can see your way clear to evaluating me for my qualifications and not from a bad moment in my career. Now, one last question for now, unless someone puts one into chat. Why is being flexible about the positions you're looking for or willing to accept important during a job search? I'm of two minds about this. And one says it agrees with the proposition because what you're trying to do is return to work as fast as possible. So being flexible about the job, about the compensation, what you're willing to look for, about the money, it will demonstrate a willingness to get back to work quickly. Now, my other mind basically says, why? Why should you be so flexible that you'd be willing to compromise on the nature of the work? I won't speak to your finances because that really dictates how flexible you should be, if at all. So what I would say to you is what you should do is look at your finances and make a decision. Don't take a stupid job, a job that won't serve you in your career. Don't take one for which you have to accept a radically lower salary. It doesn't serve you or your interests. You want to get something that makes sense for you professionally, something that compensates you fairly, and that you can be proud of going to work in the morning. as a reminder, I want to encourage you to always do world-class work and not join environments that are going to beat you down and eat you up from the inside. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and he just sounded off. And I asked him, "How's work going?" He was telling me his problems at work. And I said, you just sound defeated. And you know that, especially for someone in your field, and I'm not going to go into his profession, for someone in your field, when you sound this way, you can't be successful. You're just not, because you don't project certainty and faith. You don't project certainty and belief in what you're doing. So, my encouragement to everyone is always do world class work, rarely compromise. Like, if you really have to, I respect that. But most people are selling themselves short and taking jobs that they're not really interested in environments that are not going to serve them, and hurting their career longer term. Don't do that. It is a mistake. I'm Jeff Altman. I hope you found this helpful. My website is JobSearch.Community. Go to the site. I've got free material on the homepage. Plus, you can become an insider member, and you can, in doing that, get access to all my video courses, books, and guides. Plus, message me through the site. I will respond no later than 24 hours in almost all circumstances. If I'm sick, if I'm on a plane, it may not be possible. But so far, I've been able to respond within 24 hours, a lot less than 24 hours. Become an Insider Plus member, you get everything I previously mentioned, plus we get on a couple of Zoom calls a month. Become an Insider Premium member, you get everything I've mentioned up until this point, plus we do individual or group coaching. I'm starting a new group coaching program in mid-February. I hope you can join me there. Also want to mention, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. I'm going to be back next Tuesday at noon Eastern again with more Career Coach Office Hours. I hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.